Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Youth Leadership Series. Our first webinar is going to be on Youth Move's approach to developing youth leadership. It's going to be presented by Madeline Zielinski and Jasmine Boatwright from Youth Move. And I'm Shira Collings. I'm the Youth Coordinator at the National Empowerment Center, and I'll be moderating today. So I'm just going to go over some housekeeping before we get started. This webinar was developed in part under grant number SM082648 from SAMHSA, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The views, opinions, and content expressed in this presentation do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of the Center for Mental Health Services or SAMHSA or the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And this webinar will be recorded. All of our webinars are, and the PowerPoint presentation and the video of the webinar will be posted to our website at power2u.org. At the end of the webinar, there's going to be a Q&A session, and you're invited to ask questions at any time through the question function. Questions will be taken in the order that they are received, and you're also welcome to make comments using that function too. We may not get to every question. We have over 100 people registered, but we will try to get to everything today and share contact info at the end. Next slide. So the title of the webinar is Motivating Others Through Voices of Experience. And I'll just share a little bit of information about each of our presenters. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, so to share a little bit about Youth Move, Youth Move has been around since 2007, starting as a youth group, and now it's part of a nationwide youth engagement and peer support network. Yeah, next slide, if you can just go to the bios. Sorry about that. Yeah, so our presenters are Jasmine Boatwright and Madeline Zielinski. Next slide. Jasmine became interested in youth and family voice once she noticed the limited power young adults have in decision making. She began sharing her and her family's experiences in the mental health system in order to advocate for youth. Prior to joining Youth Move National, her advocacy led her to become the director of Youth Move Michigan, supporting Youth Move Detroit and providing technical assistance to local systems of care and tribal youth groups. When she's off the clock, Jasmine moonlights as a local entertainment promoter and can put together a playlist of good music you haven't heard before. One of her favorite movies is the Transformers series because Bumblebee reminds her of the first car she named John Shaft. Awesome. Next slide. Madeline Zielinski is also a TA specialist. Madeline has a huge passion for Pearl Jam, Eggs Benedicts, and youth advocacy. She got her start in youth advocacy attending Indiana Youth Group, an LGBTQ+ drop-in center. This sparked her passion to destigmatize LGBTQ issues and educate on its intersectionality with mental wellness. Prior to Youth Move National, she was the state coordinator for Youth Move Indiana, and served as a representative on the In Suicide Prevention Network Advisory Council, the state LGBTQ+ board, and the Commission on Improving the Status of Children, and the vice chair of the Indiana Systems of Care Youth and Family Subcommittee. Madeline considers dancing on stage with Snoop Dogg to be her greatest achievement to date. She also loves spending time with her two god babies, one of which is named Madeline. Awesome. And I did want to let you know just before the presentation gets started that we are going to be having a youth emotional CPR training hosted by NEC on December 14th through 18th from 3 to 5:30 Eastern. So we will post more information in the chat. So without further ado, I'll let Madeline and Jasmine take it away.
Thank you so much, Shira. I really appreciate that introduction. So we are so excited to be here today. Jasmine and I have a huge passion for youth engagement. We love talking about leadership. We love empowering our communities to become leaders and creating those changes. So What we're going to do today is talk to you about some of those, some of our tips and tricks for identifying yourself as a leader. We're going to engage in some discussion. So just an FYI, we will be calling you out to participate a little bit. And we're even going to offer some opportunities. But before we go into any of that or the details of what that sort of looks like, we would love to get an idea for who is here with us today. So we've got the chat box. We would love for you to let us know your name and pronouns, your location, where you're calling from, and your role. And then our icebreaker today is, what change would you like to see in the coming year? So again, name and pronouns, location and role, and what would you like to see change in the coming year? So just drop those answers in the chat box for us. So I can definitely at least get us started for the people that have their microphones on. My name is Madeline. Like we said, I use she and they pronouns. I'm calling from Indianapolis, Indiana today. And I think that the biggest change that I want to see is to be able to start going to concerts again. I love going to see live music outside. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And I would love to be able to leave my house and go see some music right now. That just sounds awesome. Jasmine, what about you?
Madeline, I'm with you. I'm Jasmine Boatwright. I use she, her, hers pronouns. And I am currently calling from Detroit, Michigan. My role is Youth Programs Coordinator with Youth Move National. And one thing I would like to see, I'm definitely with you, Maddie. I would love to be able to attend concerts as well as throw them. You all see that I'm a party promoter, and that's one thing that I love to do.
Absolutely.
So behind the scenes, I'm putting in the chat how people are responding. So if you look at the chat, you should be able to read those responses.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. I think we can, everyone just keep going ahead and introducing yourself in the chat box, and we will go ahead and move on to the next slide.
So, what are we talking about a little bit today? We are definitely going to use some of this time. Oh, I lost you all. Okay. To understand Youth Move National's approach to youth leadership and development, understand what it means to be an effective leader, identify resources and support. So we're going to talk a little bit about what resources and supports may be useful for young people as they're embarking on a journey of leadership, as well as discover opportunities to become engaged and involved with Youth Move National and some of the stuff that we're doing. Next slide, please. And actually, you could go to the next slide because these are similar. Thank you. So what is Youth Move National? Youth Move National, we are a youth-driven, chapter-based organization dedicated to improving services as well as systems that support the growth of young people, and as well as uniting the voices of individuals with lived experience that may come from various systems that may be mental health, juvenile justice, special education or education, and child welfare. We raise awareness around youth issues and advocate for the right of young people, especially for the right for young people to be at the table as equal partners. Next slide, please. As I stated, we are a chapter-based organization, so we have over 60 chapters across the USA. We raise awareness around youth issues. and advocate for the rights for young people to be at the table as equal partners, like I stated before. Our 60 chapters have several different things that they focus on. And if we go to the next slide, we will dig a little deeper into that. So through several years of strategic planning and logic modeling, sustainability planning, and just working with young people, we see that most youth work shows up in these 6 purpose areas. Peer networking, I'm sorry, you guys, I lost you again. Peer networking and recreation, community involvement and advocacy, social marketing and awareness building, youth voice development and leadership training, personal development and empowerment, and peer service delivery. And so I'll break down some of those for you. As we talk about peer networking, we're talking about creating a safe place for young adults to come together and share resources. So whether that's resources, best practices, personal stories, kind of having some time to work together and collaboratively, and hopefully find some resolution in some common problems that they may have. Some examples of peer networking will include collaborating with other youth groups, planning and attending different outings or trips, attending conferences or community events, and engaging young adults in events, and overall engaging young adults in events and planning and programming where they can use their voices. When we talk about community and advocacy, those are kind of where you're using those voices in a wider community while also raising awareness about more of a universal message. So that some examples of community and advocacy could be providing advocacy training, hosting mentoring programs, holding community service events, and or participating on advisory boards and or committees. As we look at social marketing and awareness building, this usually allows you to become more creative in spreading awareness around your group's mission, vision, values, and build partnerships within the community. Young people, we know that it's easy for young people to do something like a social media campaign or a competition in order to raise awareness around something like mental health. Other things that they can do is maintain a blog, create and manage websites, or write newsletters. I know when I was a local coordinator here in Wayne County, we had a quarterly newsletter that came out, and that newsletter told everyone all of the stuff that we were doing within our community, any events that we had coming up, resources directly related to youth and young adults. It was a way for us to make sure that people were informed about the work that we were doing, as well as spread resources throughout our community. Another purpose area is youth voice development and leadership. And that's usually when there's done by leading a campaign for youth voice and choice. Young adults are able to practice and model critical leadership skills, including teamwork, research, creating partnerships, presenting information, evaluation, and planning. Incorporating young adults as experts in planning at all levels is one example of youth voice development and leadership, as well as providing opportunities for strategic sharing, advocacy, spokesperson and leadership training, and providing opportunities and support for youth and young adults to lead different opportunities, whether that's meetings or focus groups or community events, providing opportunities for young people to kind of lead. And if there are mistakes or things that could be changed, using that as an opportunity for growth versus young people messing up or something like that and it feeling more punitive. We are almost done with purpose areas, guys. Peer service and delivery. Some examples of peer service delivery is definitely offering one-on-one peer services, which now most states have Medicaid billable. Incorporate services into at like drop-in centers and things like that, facilitating wraparound meetings, and hiring young adults as staff. As we think about, oh, I think we already covered personal development and empowerment. Okay, I think we did. If I think that's all I have for that slide. If we can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So we just talked about all of those lovely purpose areas, and now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we support our chapters. So we use some of those same techniques around peer-to-peer learning opportunities. We host monthly chapter chats that allows young people to come together, our chapter network to kind of come together and share what they've been doing, things that they are working on within their community, barriers that they may have, things that they feel that they're experts in. They're able to come and present on those things. We also highlight peer-to-peer learning because we offer office hours, and our office hours are really geared toward or aimed towards youth leaders and adult supports who may need some additional resources or support around a specific topic. If you have any questions or just need to directly connect with myself or Madeline, that's a perfect way for our network to kind of jump in and ask questions or resources. We always encourage connections to other chapters. So we feel like one of the best ways to do some peer-to-peer learning is really connecting with our peers, right? So to other chapters, figuring out what they're doing, things that we may be able to duplicate in our local communities. Figuring out if we have common challenges or barriers, and if there's ways for us to partner in order to alleviate some of those barriers. Am I missing anything, Madeline?
I think that sounds good. I think that one of the strengths that we have for our network is connecting, like Jasmine was talking about, connecting the chapters to each other that have similar things in common. I think having those opportunities, or like, the chapter chats, those peer learning opportunities, it is probably one of the biggest benefits, because a lot of the times these organizations or even these individuals feel like they're existing in just this, like they're the only person basically in the community doing this. Like it's just them and their friends. It's like it's just their organization and they don't know anybody else who has this job. So how do you find mentorship when you don't know anybody that's ever done this job before? And it's such a unique opportunity to be part of the chapter network that you're able to access other peers that you can call on and offer support. Jasmine and I had even connected as state leaders before we had joined the national team together, because I'm in Indiana, she's in Michigan. Those are similar communities, and so let's find a way that we can work together.
I completely agree, Madeline. Just thinking about when I was a local coordinator, I felt like the biggest, the greatest strength that Youth Move National had was that I was in a community where I was the only young person who had the youth coordinator role. And oftentimes youth coordinators or those in the power of position within youth leadership are told to, like, here's some money, we have a grant, go coordinate. And it's often not that easy to engage young people or young adults. And so having other youth coordinators who had similar roles as mine and being able to kind of bounce ideas off of, see what they're doing, figuring out what challenges we're having similar. It really helped me grow in my role, as well as just kind of figure out how to conceptualize the this huge system that I was working within.
And I think the one more thing I would throw on there as well is the opportunity to not only feel connected as like individual to individual, local to local, but to feel the unity as a network, to have the opportunities to participate in a national level, space. Like you have the chance to participate in national level boards. You have the chance to take part in awareness events that are happening all across the country, and so having that chance to work together as one, to work together as a network and really feel part of something bigger, is just, there's so much magic when that happens. And so I think being able to share those opportunities with young adults around you, I have seen people just flourish just for having the opportunity to stand up and tell their story. It's changed the course of their lives. So you never know when like that one opportunity is going to empower someone to really take control or recognize their strength, and really just have them take charge of their destiny. It's really an incredible thing to see.
Definitely. Well, some other things we do to support our chapter is intensive individualized consulting and coaching, which is, I think, one of myself and Madeline's favorite things to do. That is when we're able to meet with different youth groups and chapters to really help figure out where they are on the ladder of youth engagement, in a sense, and how to get to where they would like to be. If young people are having any challenges or just need some peer support, need to know how to access different youth-related resources or supports, we're here to help. And I love that we're available to do that. We also support our chapters with a national network calendar. This is just our way of making sure that our chapters know what opportunities we have going on, how to get involved, how to stay connected, and just a way for us to make sure that they have all of the information, in order to attend those things. We make sure our chapters are connected to resources and opportunities. If we receive any grants information or any information around possible funding or anything youth related or youth specific, we make sure to share that with our network, as well as any national advocacy opportunities. One thing that we participate in every year is Children's Mental Health Awareness Day and Children's Mental Health Awareness Month, and just making sure that if there are any advocacy opportunities, if there's any opportunities for us to engage young people in advocacy, that we share those opportunities with our young people through our chapter network. Well, we know that that was a lot of information in a few minutes. And so we are going to switch gears for a minute and we're going to let Madeline lead us through a Menti poll. Next slide, please.
Okay. So if you've never used Menti before, you're going to love it. I love it. We're really excited. And I would like to add just on a layer, using Menti is also one of the way that we engage our audiences now that we're living in this new virtual time. It's one of our very favorite things is to be able to use Menti as a way, to communicate, to get people to talk and feel engaged in those virtual settings when we can't be together, So what you're going to do, if you've never used Menti before, we're going to ask you to go to menti.com, either on your cell phone or on another page or another browser, another tab in your browser, and type in the code 5261915. It's here on your screen. We'll also drop that in the chat box. And the first question that we have for you all is, when is the first time that you felt like a leader? So again, the Menti code is 5261915. And it should pop right up and you'll be able to enter your answers. And then we will go ahead and share them.
Just to let you know that the answers will pop up anonymous, so we won't know who's sharing what. So feel free to feel that this is a safe space.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jasmine. All of your answers are totally anonymous. They will be popping up on our screen. The first one we have right now is when I joined a board of directors. That's an excellent one. That can really make you feel like a leader when you're serving on a board as a board member. As a teen, I was involved in JROTC. Excellent. Those ROTC's trainings are really wonderful for making you feel empowered. I absolutely admire that. My first job, I was asked to be a team leader. I was 17. Excellent. The first time I felt like a leader was when I became a youth engagement coordinator. Others looked up to me and I felt like I'm inspired. Awesome. That's such a good feeling. The first time I felt like a leader was when others followed me to do something. I definitely know that feeling. I feel like the first time I felt like a leader was when I was in middle school at the school dances, and I would be the first one out on the dance floor, and then I'd make other people more comfortable. We also have one that says, when in kindergarten, I led the song ABC by the Jackson 5. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. We also have when my youth told me that they were glad to have me as an advocate. When I became president of the student council. When I felt valued when I was included in the development of different programs and became the coordinator of education. Excellent. First time I felt like a leader was when people began telling me how much of an impact I've had on their lives. That's always a good feeling, definitely. When I was asked for my input or opinion and not just seen as someone who could solve tech issues. Wonderful. I can't remember feeling like a leader for the first time. I still don't feel like a leader often, but I believe deeply in being the glue of our team. That's perfect. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing those answers. And I think that last answer was really a phenomenal segue into some of the other things that we're going to be talking about today, which will be about you know, how do we identify ourselves as a leader and how can we sort of see ourselves as leaders moving forward? So yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in our first Menti poll. So now we're going to talk about Youth Move National's approach to leadership. Okay, so here at Youth Move National, one of the primary ways that we work in encouraging youth leadership is through youth engagement. So when we talk about youth engagement, what does that mean? And it really falls along a spectrum. So we've broken it down into 3 different sections. There's youth guided, which is basically just getting input from young adults that guide your system. There's also youth directed, which is more of having young adults that are actually in charge. And then there's youth driven, which is more, it's like a collaboration of those two. So these things are not linear. It's not a process that you just like go from one to the other. And these are things that can be happening all at the same time within the same organization. Could we have the next slide, please? Awesome, thank you. So what is youth engagement? Our definition of that is a strategy where youth are giving meaningful input and have roles where they are authentically involved, working towards improving service systems that directly affect their lives. So that is the definition that we are using when we're talking about youth engagement within our field. All right, so we are going to go back to Menti. And our next question is, what are the benefits of youth engagement? It should be popping up, hopefully, on your screen. If you're on menti.com, it's going to be the same code. And our question is, what are some benefits of youth engagement? Collaboration, prevention and early intervention. That's definitely really important. Some of the other benefits would be hearing what the youth wants and understanding the youth. It's part of cultural competence. Young people have their own culture, and that needs to be respected and not dismissed or criticized. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. It allows you to hear different perspectives on an issue. Absolutely. Opportunities for youth leadership, pro-social events, bringing youth out of their comfort zone. That is definitely an excellent, some excellent examples of youth engagement. Some other benefits would be motivational interviewing, early intervention, sharing power so that the youth feel heard. And I think, of course, one of my favorite sayings is nothing about us without us. Awesome. These are really great. Connecting with peers, building networks, creating a sense of feeling that they're not alone. Increased confidence. Awesome. This is great. Thank you all so much. So it seems like we, as a group, generally have an understanding of why having youth engagement is important. I think that one of my favorite reasons for having youth engagement is to increase the effectiveness of the programs, right? It's kind of hard to get into services, so let's make sure that once we're into services, they're effective services. So I'll pass it over to Jasmine to talk to us about positive youth development.
Thank you, Madeline.
Yeah,
And great responses, you all. I am loving what I'm seeing in the Menti posts, and please feel free to keep them going as we talk. But positive youth development is pretty much at the core of Youth Move National's approach to leadership development and capacity building of youth, young adults, and youth-run programs and organizations. Positive youth development engages young people, but not just young people, it engages their families, communities, and governments. So that young people can feel empowered to reach their full potential. Positive youth development approaches usually builds on skills, assets, and competencies that really help foster healthy relationships, strengthen the environment, and transform systems. Most positive youth development programs, when we talk about assets, they work to improve assets. And when we talk about assets, youth have the necessary resources and skills to achieve desired outcomes. Agencies, when we talk about agency, youth have the ability to employ their assets and aspirations to make their own decisions about their lives and set goals and act on those decisions in order to help achieve those desired outcomes that we were talking about without fear of violence or any type of punitive behavior. Positive youth development programs usually focuses on improving and enabling the environment. So youth are surrounded by an environment that maximizes their assets. It supports the agency. Young people have access to services and opportunities and the ability to avoid risk while promoting their social and emotional competence to just thrive and meet some of those um, desired goals. And again, positive youth development programs usually work to improve the contribution. So youth are encouraged, recognized, and able to be involved and lead through various channels as a source of change. Their voices are being heard in their communities, and it's benefiting their communities, the agencies, and overall positive development. It's building positive development within young people. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a few continuums that will be useful in helping us each think about where we are in working and partnering with young adults at an individual as well as an organizational level. On this slide, we see the foundation of youth development. The continuums represent three approaches and styles to working with youth and young adults. And that is doing to, doing for, and doing with. When we are in a relationship as an adult, we do to in our relationship. We are driven by a goal of helping young people as adults in a relationship where we're doing to. So even though we're driven by the goal of helping young adults grow and develop, what usually happens is the byproduct of this style of relationship of doing to a young adult is that a young adult conforms to a situation and accepts that the program and environment will always be the way it is. When you move to a doing for relationship, much of the same thing happens. There's still a drive on behalf of the adult to support that young person's personal growth and whatever he or she may need. However, we see a shift in letting the young adult become more involved. There is now room for input into a relationship on behalf of the young adult, and this relationship, we are able to open our ears to what the young adult is sharing. The byproduct of this style of relationship is that we increase organizational effectiveness. Our ultimate goal is to move to doing with young people, and there's a shared partnership between the young person and an adult. The relationship is a two-way street. Our objective can now be to increase the organizational effectiveness, and the byproduct is personal growth of both the young person and adult. Creating a space for you to kind of check yourself. Am I doing to, doing for, or doing with? Can become a helpful and effective practice to help you move towards doing in relationship with young adults. Next slide, please. Here you see Hart's Ladder of Youth Engagement. I have worked using Hart's Ladder of Youth Engagement in two different ways. One is Hart's Ladder of Youth Engagement helps you gauge where you are as it relates to youth engagement as an organization. So it helps you and it also helps you establish a common language when asking young people for help. So one of the things we've done here in Wayne County using Hart's Ladder of Participation is we created a survey that talked about each one of these tiers. We worked with our evaluator to pull questions for around one. Okay, let me tell you all how to read this ladder first. Um, so you want to start from the bottom up. We try to stay away from 1 through 3. 1 through 3 is pretty much tokenism, decoration, and manipulation of young people. Young people usually have no voice and choice of anything happening in this rung, and it's sometimes engaging young people where in situations where they can be tokenized, manipulated, and decorated could lead to more trauma for a young person and becomes counterproductive for a young person's growth and recovery. When we begin to work with young people in a assigned and informed way, young people begin to learn a little bit more about services, learn a little bit more about what they are experiencing, what programs they are receiving, how to advocate for themselves. And then voice and choice moves up the ladder. So ultimately, we want to get to a place where young people are able to partner with adults to share decision making. And so that's one way that we have used Heart's Ladder of participation. But another way that we use Heart's Ladder of participation is really just a way of having, if we're engaging young adults in leadership roles, having a way to kind of have that common language of if we're asking a young person to provide input on a program or a policy that will impact other youth and families within the organization, making sure that young people know just how much power and voice they have within that ask. So that may be if we're asking young people to inform and consult, they'll fall more on the line of 5. On the Heart's Ladder of participation, where young people are being consulted and informed, but may not be the final decision maker for that, ultimately for that program or policy. Next slide, please. So we're going to dig more into the roles that young people may have in those different steps on Heart's Ladder participation. These roles of young adults include roles that ask young people to be more informed, ask young people to consult, be involved, collaborate, empower. So young people begin to learn more about information as well as share information when they're able to do things like participate in fairs and events and feature their stories or share their stories in different things throughout their community, when they're able to participate in things like social media campaigns or supporting different things around websites. When we consult young people, or when young people are consulting, they're usually more involved in things like focus groups and participating in surveys and having access to suggestion boxes and patient experience trackers is another way that we get information from young people. It's just figuring out based on their evaluations and the things that they're listing, have we met their needs? And if not, what are some things that they would like to see? Ways to involve young people are definitely providing opportunities of leadership. So whether that's co-leading workshops, co-leading focus groups, participating in conferences, developing and disseminating different materials and products. Those are all ways to involve young people. When we talk about collaborating with young people, that could be through advisory groups where organizations or agencies ask young people to review different policies or different parts of programs that may need improvement. That's when young people are working in doing peer support and networking. When young people are on and leading youth advisory councils or serving as a liaison to a provider and or policy groups. Young people being empowered in strategy groups, steering committees, places where young people can really make decisions is ultimately what we envision when we say empowering young people. Young people being attached to other leaders within the movement so that they have support is also a sense of empowerment. And across all of these roles for youth and young adults, one thing, I mean, not one thing, but the things that should be threaded throughout should be safety, transparency, and trust, empowerment, choice, collaboration, mutuality, cultural responsiveness, and peer support. Next slide, please. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Madeline to talk a little bit more about what we offer here at Youth Move National.
Awesome. Thank you, Jasmine. So this is where it gets really exciting, because instead of just talking about youth leadership, you can actually check out what you can do as a leader, how you can participate with us as a network, even if you're not in a chapter. So one of the more new and exciting things that we have going on at Youth Move right now is our new grant that is for the Youth Move Peer Center. So this is an effort it's funded through the Consumer TA Center. So it's a similar work to what we've already been doing. But what we're doing is trying to increase the amount of capacity that our youth peer support groups have. So increasing the number of young adults that are entering the workforce as youth peer supports, making sure that we're doing professional development for those young adults, as well as coaching and consulting with the actual organizations that might be hosting them and bringing them on as employees. So we will be offering trainings, consultation. We'll be doing learning communities where it'll be a little bit more intensive, where you're working with maybe other people that are doing similar work. We are approaching our sign-up deadline. So if you or someone you know in your community seems like a good fit for this, please check it out. I will make sure that the link makes it into the chat box before we leave today. And yeah, so you can reach out to us. We're really a no wrong door agency for any of the opportunities that we're going to talk about today. And we'll make sure that you get hooked up and taken care of. So next slide, please. Oh, and Jasmine, if you wouldn't mind terribly grabbing the Youth Move Peer Center link for the chat box, that'd be amazing. Thank you so much. So, so in addition to our trainings, or in addition to this peer center, we also offer trainings. We do often do sort of customized trainings. For instance, this one we're doing today. You let us know what is the topic that you want to talk about, what do you want us to address, and we'll put something together that's tailored for the needs of you and your community. We do also have some established trainings that we offer as well. Strategic sharing. This is definitely one of the most popular trainings. It's really about how to share your personal story in a safe and effective way. There's different steps, you know, how did this help? Learning how to formulate an ask, learning how to, you know, do before and after care for when you do share your personal story, and how you can share it in a way that maximizes the effectiveness. We also have individualized trainings, just like this one, like I mentioned earlier. Some youth engagement foundations. We offer trainings for youth peer support. I think my very favorite one that we offer is the YALA, is the Youth Advocate Leadership Academy. I am a master facilitator, which is just a fancy word for I'm one of the only trainers that does that training, and I love it so much. This is a training that has taken blood, sweat, and tears from the Youth Move National team, from our personal experience, and all of the things that we've gathered along the way, crammed into a 2-day training where we take young adults and really just do some awesome, intensive interactive, collaborative leadership trainings. It's really, really a wonderful, wonderful experience. It gives young adults, it's not like a lecture, it's very interactive. You're working with teams. Sometimes we even have the young adults come up and present different sections so that they can really develop those actual leadership skills instead of just sitting around and talking about it, right? We do youth voice and evaluation, figuring out how do you, those are two things that it's kind of difficult to find the connection between data and youth voice, and how do we make that happen. We also have strategic planning and sustainability. We do that really, really consistently. And then of course, youth program development, which is Jasmine and I's specialties. So if any of this looks intriguing to you, if you see something that you're like, yes, that is interesting to me, that is what we need at our organization, please contact us. You can contact us just through info@youthmovenational.org, or you can go to our website. We are a no wrong door organization. And of course, feel free to drop questions in the chat box if you have any. So I went in a little bit about the Youth Advocate Leadership Training, or YALA. Like I said, this is a 2.5-day training. What is happening with this now is we're trying to move it to a virtual environment. We're hoping to offer it twice over the next year, and seeing how are we going to make this work. What usually is a 2.5-day training, maybe doing it over a couple of weeks online. So that's something that we're currently working on. Please keep an eye out for updates about that. We would love for, if you're interested, to let us know, and we'll make sure you stay informed. This, like I said, it blends experiential learning with peer facilitated. We have discussions, we have activities, we have the young adults standing up there and actually facilitating different portions of the training. So it's not lecture, it's very interactive. Learning about those key leadership concepts. And how we do that is basically broken down into 3 different modules. We are developing more. This is sort of an ever-evolving training. Continuous quality improvement, right? And we had the power of personal leadership, the journey of leadership, and then leadership in action. If you would like to learn more about the YALA, please just let me know. I could talk about it all day long. Okay, so, and of course, feel free to drop questions in the chat box. Some of our other services outside of training, we do consultation and coaching. We have what is called the YVAL, or the YVOC, which stands for Youth Voice at agency level or committee level, depending on what we're looking at. And what this is an evaluation tool that addresses, I think it's 8 different sections that are key to having youth involvement either within your agency or within your committee. So this is an evaluation that we have the group fill out. We analyze the results. We let you all know, hey, here's your areas of strengths. Here's areas where we could have improvements, and how do we use those strengths to leverage the improvements that we need. So it's a wonderful evaluation tool that we've developed. If you're interested, let us know. We'd be happy to give you more information. We also do organizational readiness, developing meaningful partnerships, and product and resource development. If you're interested in seeing some of the resources and products that we've developed, they are on our website under publications. Okay, my favorite part, self-care. Self-care is so important. I cannot emphasize it enough. I think we can go to the next slide. Self-care is so especially important right now because there is so much stress coming from all these different areas that we're maybe not used to. We can't use the same coping mechanisms that we used to. So one of the things we want to jumpstart this section by asking you all if you can share with us in Menti how has your self-care changed within the past 6 months? So that should be popping up on your Menti now. So our question is, how has your self-care changed in the past 6 months? It's definitely different for me. I know that for sure. I think one of my self-care that has changed for me has been that I'm focusing a lot more on my environment, specifically my house, because I'm in my house all the time. And so, whereas before, I'm always going out of my house, I'm working in the community, and so it doesn't really feel as important. But now that I'm home all the time, I make sure I take care of my space so that I can be working in a comfortable environment. So some of the answers that we have in the Menti, we have it feels more deliberate. Absolutely. I know I now have access to a lot more support because so many services are being offered virtually. Yes, absolutely. There are so many support groups, recovery groups, all kinds of stuff that's moved online. And I feel like it has eased access. Absolutely. So talking more with like-minded people who believe in hope. Working from home, I have been able to develop a routine. I now have the ability to dive in meditation, exercises, and so many plants. I have also increased the amount of plants that I have in my house. I think a lot of us have. That's so fun. So we also have, it's gotten better throughout the past year by incorporating meditation and skincare, crucial. I reserved weekends for worship, rest, and relaxation. That's a good one. Yeah, very restorative. I wake up earlier in the day and have more time for meditation and prayer and to plan my day. Absolutely. I've been getting up an extra hour early, making sure I get a little bit of yoga in, so I can get my mind right before I get started. I am no longer able to spend quality time with my friends. Instead, I've been trying to spend more time in nature since that's something I didn't make enough time for in the past. I focus on myself and my future. I also need to learn how to engage more. Oh, I've lost it. Sorry, team. Learn how to engage more with youth. Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing some of the ways that you have been doing self-care for yourself and how that has changed over the past 6 months. It's great to have everyone's feedback, and it's also great to get inspiration from each other about, oh, maybe that's something that I can do to take care of myself as well. So we're going to talk a little bit more about self-care, why it is so important, how can we do it. It is crucial to preventing burnout. I think that most of us know at this point that this job can be the work is exhausting. This field can take a lot out of you because it's not just work, it's about our lives and it's about the things that are important to us, right? Especially if you're an advocate and you've already been through trauma and now you're having to relive the trauma in order to prevent someone else from having it, that feels like a lot of responsibility and it's a lot to deal with. So I would encourage everyone to remember that self-care is a part of the job. It is part of work. You deserve to take care of yourself. And you cannot do your job fully and the best of your abilities if you're not taking care of yourself. So I try to remind people to fill your own cup first and then share the overflow. You're going to do so much better at your job if you are taking care of yourself. You'll be able to function better. So prioritize your own mental health. I think the most important one for me, set and maintain healthy boundaries. Set a boundary and stick to it. Say, you know what, I'm not going to check my email before this time. I'm not going to check it after this time. Or if someone hits you up and say, hey, I need something from you, it is okay to say no. You need to be able to set those boundaries and it's going to make a huge difference. I know it has for me. Recognize when you're wearing yourself out. You know yourself better than anyone. So if you recognize that you're getting worn down, maybe you're getting irritable, take a second to step away. Figure out, am I hungry? Do I need to just relax and decompress for a minute? Maybe have a moment of meditation, whatever it is. And then the last thing I really want to touch on heavy about self-care is that self-care is more than just chocolate and bubble baths, is one of the things I like to say. I love chocolate. I've got jets in my bathtub, so trust me, I'm there with the baths and chocolate. But it also does look like other things. Taking care of your household chores, taking care of responsibilities, maybe to your family or your friends or your community. I know for me, it's hard for me to feel good and relaxed and confident if I know that there's a bill I haven't paid or something like that. Like that's going to be weighing on me that like, oh, I've got this thing I need to take care of. That is self-care too, by taking care of those priorities. And then also engage in something different. Have a passion project. Have something you do on the side that is not about work. It's not about anybody else except for you doing something that you like and you enjoy. So whatever that is, whether it's playing video games, whether it's writing in a journal, maybe taking care of your plants, you know, something that is just for you can make a big difference in that sort of restorative practice.
And Madeline, just to kind of chime in, I definitely resonate with the self-care is more than chocolate and bubble baths, because working virtually, I've noticed that one thing that drastically impacts my mental health is my environment. So I like my house to be organized and clean, and I'm like it for me to be able to move around. And if I'm not able to do those things, and I have 2 dogs, so moving around is sometimes already a thing. But if there's other objects and things in my way that it really bothers me and makes it a little harder for me to feel excited about getting up or going to work, or just starting the day, especially during this time where we are not able to see our friends as much. We're not able to go to the places we used to go to. Just kind of creating as much of that environment as I can at home is great. As well as I've been trying to incorporate ways to just kind of entertain myself, right? So I've been more artsy. I have like taken on household projects. My dry erase board is everywhere. Just things like that to really help me feel more grounded in what I'm doing at the moment, whether it's work or just trying to relax. So thank you, Madeline, for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And if you have a favorite way that you like to relax and take self-care, please feel free to drop that in the chat box. And with that, I think we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Okay, back to Menti. We're going to be asking today what self-care strategies and resources have been helpful for you. So so I'll go ahead and pull that up. Here we go. You should be able to type in your answers now in menti.com. What self-care strategies and resources have been most helpful for you? You know, some of us have talked about taking care of our space, taking care of our environment. I know that's the big one for me and Jasmine. We have yoga, doing movement, and your dog. One of the big things I've heard is if you don't have a dog, you should get one, that's helpful. Riding my bike and dancing a lot. I love that. I need to listen to more music. That's something that I've been neglecting in my own self-care, is listening to music. Getting enough sleep. That's a good one. I love sleeping. Support groups. Again, there's so many amazing support groups that are now available virtually that maybe we didn't have before. Doing mindfulness and grounding strategies. Baking cookies, excellent. Or watching baking shows, it's one of my favorite. Meditation, healthy eating, organizing, listening to music, and wrestling. I love that you're hitting all the big ones there with that. Oh, someone is writing a book. Very exciting. Love that. Going to the gym and dancing to good music. I miss going to the gym. Let me tell you, I was at the YMCA so much, and then we got in quarantine. It's so upsetting. My family connections, learning and growing in my own education, reading, meditating, and resting. Awesome. We'll do one more. Exercise, loving on pets, and listening to music. Excellent. These are all so good. I'm feeling better just reading the list, you know?
Yeah.
I'm already feeling more restored. That's great. Thank you all so much for sharing that. That's awesome to see all the exciting ways that people are taking care of themselves, and you know, maybe hopefully we can inspire each other to try something new for our restorative practice.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that was our last Betsy poll. I just want to let you all know. Thank you for being such rock stars and participating in that. So now that we've gone through all of our leadership things, Jasmine's going to talk to us about how can we apply this leadership. We actually have some real world can do walk away today, and you can actually do something opportunities for you all. So I'll pass it over to her to let her dive in.
Thank you. One opportunity that we have coming up is the What Helps, What Harms study. And that is the National Committee of Quality Assurance in partnership with New York University and Youth Move National. We're conducting a statewide survey to better understand youth experiences in depression care. The feedback that youth provide will go directly towards working with health plans to improve the quality of services and coverage provided to youth. The goal of this project is to identify what is helpful, what is harmful, and to identify strategies that will better depression treatment, including screening and follow-up care. Eligibility to participate includes a young adult between the ages of 18 to 25 who has received depression care during the adolescent years. That's through years 12 to 17. Depression care includes, but are not limited to, being a recipient of peer support, hospitalization, medication use to manage depression symptoms, therapy. And to participate, it takes only 10 minutes to fill out the survey. And upon successful completion, you will be a 1 in 5 opportunity. You'll have a 1 in 5 opportunity to be put into a raffle to win a $25 Amazon gift card. We will share that information with you all. I'm not sure how follow-up is being done, but we will make sure to drop the survey link in the chat box for you all to participate. We also have our YALA training coming up, and I see in the chat box that some of you are interested in the YALA. It is free, as it will be given virtually in 2020 and then hopefully in person for 2021. We also have our Youth Peer Center Advisory Council that we're currently forming and developing. Our Youth Peer Center, you all heard about that already, is where young people are able to receive coaching, training, technical assistance around the development, implementation, and ongoing services around peer support. And we do have an advisory council that we are forming to directly consult and provide feedback to that new peer center. And if you all are interested, feel free. We will send these slides out electronically, and the link is here embedded within the PowerPoint. We are always looking for new youth leaders or adult supports to join our Youth Move National Board. Pretty much that is where we work with young people who are leaders within their community, and doing some amazing work locally to help guide what the needs are for national, and help tell us what young people need in order to continue to do some of this great work. Of course, we want you all to remember that you can start your own Youth Move National chapter or your own Youth Move chapter. It is not difficult to join the Youth Move National team. All you have to do is go on our website, which I also shared in the chat box, to youthmovenational.org and click through to create a chapter. There we'll have a chapter readiness survey for you all, and it's pretty much just a list of things that you should probably consider when engaging youth and young adults, as well as before you become a chapter. So that may be thinking about how ready your organization is, or are you supported by an organization, how long a youth group has been meeting, those things. It walks you through all of that. And we accept applications twice a year. That is in the April and also in September, right, Madeline? April,
Yes.
September. Yes.
I believe. Yeah, middle of both of us. Mhm.
So we accept applications twice a year, but we're willing to work with you throughout the year to get you ready and prepared to submit that application. If you need anything from us, Madeline and I are always ready to do some intensive coaching and support to make sure that you all feel ready to become a Youth Move chapter. So if you need anything else, anything from us in the meantime, our contact information will be listed on this PowerPoint. And I just wanted to say thank you all for inviting us, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your time. I know we are passing this over to Shira to kind of end us and see if we have any questions.
Hi, yeah, this was an amazing presentation, so thank you both so much, and we have a lot of positive feedback. So we do have some questions, so I'll go ahead and just read some of those. Our first question, I think you kind of just covered it, but if you just want to add any additional information, this is from a couple different people. One person says, I see there's not a chapter in Louisiana. What are the requirements to begin a chapter? And then, yeah, another person also saying, I would like to learn how to create a chapter for our county. So do you want to add anything to that, or?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first one. There's not a chapter where?
In Louisiana.
In Louisiana. Okay. Is that true, Jasmine? I think that's true.
Yes, I think that's true.
Yeah, so absolutely, that's a really great question. So we don't currently have any chapters in Louisiana. We do have a ton of chapters around there. Like we have a lot in Florida and stuff like that, a lot across the South. If you are interested in starting a chapter group, generally what we look for, and again, like Jasmine said, we'd be happy to have individual consultation with you, hear about your organization, offer some ideas for next steps. But the general, like the big points that we ask people to hit are you need to have young adults involved. If you don't have young adults involved, we'd be happy to help you figure that out. We would like for them to have been meeting for at least 6 months. Again, if you need help with that, we'd be happy to walk you through that, get ideas for recruitment. And let's see, what else am I missing, Jasmine?
So
having you led, meeting for 6 months, and then I think having the ability to sustain yourself, basically, I think is the other big thing that we're looking for. Jasmine, what would you tell people for? Oh, you've got it in here. So for next steps on starting a chapter, we've got the link right there for you. It's youthmovenational.org/start-a-chapter. Pretty simple. Again, you can also reach out to us, even if you just send an email to info@youthmovenational.org. It's going to find its way to us. Absolutely.
Yeah, and basically, so to just sum up that answer, go on youthmovenational.org, fill out an application, check out the readiness, organizational readiness toolkit or tool. It really helps you think about, it helps you prepare for answering your questions to the application, but it also helps you think about maybe what are some other steps that we need to take when engaging young people in general. Are we sure we're ready for young people's engagement? And yeah, so just check us out. Let us know if you need anything. Like Maddie has already said, if you need any support with completing your application or have any questions, just feel free to reach out to us. Our goal is to make sure that if you want to be a chapter, you become a chapter.
I see a question here that says, do you have applications for job openings in New York? So our team is actually all virtual. We're all in different parts of the country, so it really doesn't matter where you are. You're welcome to apply. If you are, so that's for our organization. We are currently hiring, if you want to check that on our website. If you mean in general, like if you're looking to help find employment in New York, you can contact us and we'd be happy to put you, we do have chapters that are in New York. Youth Move Bravehearts are actually one of the first chapters ever. I think they've been around longer than Youth Move has, actually. And they operate out of New York, and they're a really fabulous organization. So if you're interested in working with your local chapter in New York, it is called Youth Move Bravehearts.
Great, thank you. Our next question, it's a comment, but if you both want to kind of share some reflections on it, it says, being a youth coordinator is especially difficult during the times of COVID-19. Youth are tired of conversing via Zoom. They want to be engaged in the community again. So yeah, do you want to just share any experiences or reflections on that?
I completely agree. We have been seeing that across the board. It is more and more difficult to engage young people virtually, especially now that they're required to be virtual to do schoolwork and kind of their therapy sessions and everything else has become virtual. So it's really difficult to make your virtual session different. I would give 2 tips. One is to try your hardest to make those virtual sessions as engaging as possible. And we have some techniques like using Mentipo or using things like, I don't know the name of this.
Just having discussion questions at all, asking people for feedback, leaving space for them to talk into. I think another thing that can help is for making it engaging is, you know, sort of sharing with about yourself personally. I think can make people feel a little bit more like in the room with you and also maybe feel a little bit more okay with opening up. One of my best and biggest tips that I give to people, if you're trying to engage young adults, you want to set up your event like you are throwing a party and everyone that you've invited has extreme anxiety. So, so you want to make sure that you're very clear with like where it is, when it is, what to expect, let them know that they're welcome to be there, and then also offer different ways for them to engage. Like for me, I'm a loudmouth and I'll sit there and talk all day long. You know, I have no fear of talking, you know, of speaking up in a call or something like that. But there's a lot of people that don't feel that way. They're not comfortable doing that. So how do we get those people to also feel engaged? And that's why, you know, one of my favorite lines is saying, you know, if you're feeling brave, you can unmute. We also have the chat box if you'd like to put your information in there. And that's a way that people can feel like, okay, they're being inclusive. And this makes me feel like, even though I don't really want to unmute, I don't want to show my face, I can still put my information in the chat box and that's valid.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I also wanted to add that I think a lot of youth actually really feel comfortable in virtual spaces. That I think there's research showing that youth feel significantly more comfortable in virtual spaces than maybe people of other generations, and also significantly less comfortable driving. So that can be something to kind of remember. I think sometimes assumptions are made that everyone can't wait to get out of virtual space and be back in person. But yeah, I think for a lot of you, having virtual options is good for a variety of reasons, including kind of the accommodations that you just talked about that can be for people.
Absolutely. And I would also challenge that to say that The same way you don't want to make assumptions that youth don't want to be in virtual spaces, don't make the assumption that all youth are comfortable in virtual spaces and like live on their phone and stuff, because that's also not, necessarily the case. I've had a lot of challenges with trying to help young adults figure out some technology. So just something to be prepared for as well.
Great point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shira. That's a great perspective.
Um, I think we have time for about one more question. So this person said, the Boy Scout troop I belonged to in my youth was totally ruined when a totally unqualified person was elected senior patrol leader, the top leader among the youth, and totally wrecked the troop. And the generation gap as a 64-year-old, I often think the young need to learn from the mistakes of my generation. How do we get youth to learn from elders and still respect the young? So I think this question is kind of asking about that balance between youth learning from older generations, but also vice versa. How do you kind of strike that balance?
Yeah, and I
I
think
know I've learned from my mistakes. I can't necessarily speak for others, but I know that I've embarrassed myself enough times in some situations that I definitely learned. Jasmine, do you have anything that you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think going back to those continuum slides and really thinking about how to get young people to buy in and create a vision and tailor a vision that fits their needs and as well as meet the mission and vision of the overall program is super important, and how to have that balance between young people and adults sharing decisions and sharing experiences and having a mutual respect for each other, I think is super important. And so I would definitely reference back to some of those previous leadership and some of our previous leadership slides, as well as those continuums, to really try to think about, based on what your needs are, how to develop that mutuality and respect and shared decision making. It to me, that's usually what changes the environment and gets young people more active in steering what it is that they're looking for within programs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that I've found, for me personally, when I am trying to share my experience with a younger person, um, in a way, like communicating that in a way that I think will be helpful for them. Uh, for me, when I was younger and someone tried to tell me what to do, just the fact that they're telling me what to do made me not want to do it, and luckily we grow out of that, right, as we get older, but it is a challenge. And so one of the tactics that I use personally in my life, not going to work for everyone, but I've used it, is instead avoid words like "you should do this." Avoid trying to tell people this is what you should be doing. And what I do instead is tell them my story from my perspective and say, hey, this is what happened to me one time. This is what helped. This is what harmed. This is what I would have done differently. And have a conversation with them in a way where you're exchanging experiences, without like telling somebody, like specifically avoiding the words should, you should do this. That I think that is really helpful. And what it also does is if you're able to engage in a dialogue where you're sharing about yourself, they might be able to share things with you about the circumstances and how that's different than whatever you experienced that maybe you hadn't considered, and that you can then work together towards a solution maybe that's collaborative.
I love that, Madeline. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. Really good one. A lot of really great questions today and an incredible engagement. Thank you, everyone who has been so willing to share and offer your perspective and offer the things that you're doing. I think that we all learned a lot today, and we couldn't have done it without you. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you both for your answers, and thank you to everyone who's attended. I did just want to let you know again about our upcoming ECPR training for youth. Let me just find those dates here to let you know a final time. It's December 14th through 18th from 3 to 5:30 Eastern. And I believe that that info has been posted in the chat on how to register for the ECPR youth training. Also, our next webinar in our youth leadership development series is going to be December 16th at the same time as this one, 4:30 to 6 p.m. So we'll be sending out more information on that and how to register. But we really appreciate you being here, and we hope you join us next time. And thank you again, Jasmine and Madeline, and Oryx for your behind the scenes help. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. See you soon.
Bye.